Hello everyone, I'm Ventos. Welcome back to the English lesson on the program of TELE-ESKOLA. Today is our fourth meeting within the second period of your studies. On this second meeting occasion, our English lesson is going to be all about the imperative form of the verbs. You're going to learn some situations with the use of the imperative form of the verbs, plus how they come across in sentences in the examples provided later in this lesson. If you are ready, let's get started. Alright, let's start by looking at this example sentence. Close the door, please. In this sentence, the verb close, shaded in yellow, as shown in this sentence, is the example of an imperative form of the verb. So, what is an imperative form of the verb? In English, an imperative is the verb that is in the base form without a subject and without using to before the base form of the verb. As well, you can see in this example sentence, close is the base form of the verb close. And notice that there is no subject before close. For example, we don't say you close, we close, they close the door, please. And also not with to before close. For example, we don't say to close the door, please. But it's simply close the door, please. Again, there is no subject and or to, but simply the verb in the base form or the infinitive verb, also known as the imperative form of the verbs. And that in this particular sentence, we use an imperative form of the verb to tell someone to do something, or basically to give an order or instruction for someone to do something, in this case, to close the door, please. Close the door, please. Imagine you saw someone walked into your house and then you saw that the person left the door open. You then ordered the person, close the door, please. It's an order or it's an instruction. Another example, let's imagine your mother says, stay with your brother and watch him while I'm away. In this sentence, there are two examples of the imperatives. Stay with your brother and watch him while I'm away. You see, in this sentence, there are two instructions or orders a mother makes here, maybe to her older child, maybe a daughter or a son, to do something, in this case, to stay and watch his or her brother, who is still maybe like a baby, for example. Furthermore, both verbs, stay and watch, here start the sentence. Again, notice the imperative clauses or sentences don't always require the subjects and or to before the base form of the verbs, as shown in this example. You see, there is neither subject nor to before stay and watch. To form a negative form of an imperative, we basically just need to add do not or don't before the base form or the infinitive verb for all persons, singular and plural. And this is basically to tell someone not to do something. For example, let's say, don't leave the light on when you go out. Don't close the door, please. It's raining outside. Don't go. Don't go out. Don't drink too much alcohol. Don't give up. And don't quit the job, etc. So, as you can see in these example sentences, when with the negative forms, basically we start with do not or don't, and then followed by the base form of the verb, as in the examples, don't leave, don't close, don't go, don't drink, don't give up, don't quit, etc. Notice in English speech we usually use don't. Alright, I hope this part is clear. Now, besides the use of the imperatives for making orders and instructions, with the examples we've just been through, let's also look at other common uses of the imperatives. These are the common uses of the imperatives. We also use the imperatives to encourage someone, to suggest something, to offer something, and to express wishes for someone's welfare, plus other situations. Let's look at them one by one, and let's start with the use of imperatives to encourage someone. For example, let's say when someone fails to do something, then we would say, try again. You see, in this example, we have try, as in try again is the base form of the verb try. Again, there is no subject and or to before the infinitive or the base form of the verb try. Further, it's really not an order, but if we were to say this, we are encouraging someone to do something. In this case, to try something again, for example. Let's look at other examples with it. Don't lose hope. Trust yourself. Have faith in God. Don't cry a lot. Don't feel so bad. Stay with us, etc. Now, moving on, let's look at the use of imperatives to suggest something or giving advice for someone. For example, let's say you have someone as a guest in your house, and that after talking for a few hours, then the person decides to leave. But when the person is about to leave, you see that it suddenly starts to rain. Then you tell the person, it's raining, wait until the rain stops. Or, here, take my umbrella. In the first sentence, we have wait, as in wait until the rain stops, as the base form of the verb wait, serves as an imperative form of the verb to suggest something or giving an advice for someone. In this case, the guest, to wait until the rain stops. And then take, as in the second example, take my umbrella, is also the base form of the verb take, serves as an imperative form of the verb also to make a suggestion or to give an advice for the guest to do something. In this case, to take an umbrella because it's raining, etc. Again, notice there is no subject and or to before both the imperative verbs, in this case, wait and take, etc. Another example, let's imagine someone says, don't live in Australia. It's an expensive country. Now, this is an advice with the use of an imperative form in the negative form, or basically suggesting someone not to do something, in this case, not to live in Australia because of its expensive living cost. So you see, the person is suggesting or offering an advice that living in Australia is not an ideal, as you may not be able to afford living there, etc. Now let's look at the use of imperatives to offer something for someone. For example, let's say you offer someone a cup of coffee by saying, have a cup of coffee. Again, it's not an order, but it's more or less an offer for someone. In this sentence, the word have is the base form of the verb have, and it is a very common imperative used to offer something to someone in a polite way. Let's look at other examples. Try a slice of pizza. Have a cake. Take some fruit with you. Come to Australia with us, etc. Now, there's one thing about this lost example here. Come to Australia with us. Might sound not really an offer, maybe more like an invitation. But yes, it is more or less an imperative form used for offering an invitation. Now moving on, let's look at the imperatives used to express someone's welfare. Notice, in English, expressing someone's welfare is like wishing of a hope for someone's success, happiness, in a polite expression of desire for someone's welfare. For example, let's imagine you have a friend who is lying down in the hospital for being sick. Then you decide to visit him or her and wish him or her by saying, "Get well soon." So you see, in this sentence, the word get is the base form of the verb get, serves as an imperative used in this particular context, basically to wish someone, in this case the sick friend, to feel better or to get better, etc. Another example, let's imagine you are invited to a party. Then when at the party, you see that the food is already served on the table. And then you see that the owner of the party comes forward and says something like this: "Ladies and gentlemen, help yourselves to the meals and enjoy them." All right, before I go on, notice help yourself or yourselves is a very common expression in English, means to take something of what you want without asking permission or without hesitation. And it is used especially when offering food to someone or a group of people, as in the example, "Help yourselves to the meals." Again, in this example sentence, there are two base forms of the verbs. In this case, help yourself to the meals and enjoy them. And both serves as the imperatives used to express someone's welfare or a group of people's welfare, in this case to take the food without hesitation and to enjoy them, in this case the meals, etc. Let's also look at other examples of the imperatives used to express someone's or a group of people's welfare. Have a good weekend. We might hear this a lot, basically on Friday evening after a week of work. So you wish someone to feel better or happy during the weekend. We can also say, have a nice holiday. Have a pleasant evening. Have a pleasant evening. Have a good night, etc. Now let's also look at some situations with the use of the imperatives. We can also use the imperative form of the verbs to make request. Notice a request is not a warning or an order or command, etc. But a request in this context means to ask someone in a very polite way. Let's look at some examples. Please take a seat. Please wait here. Please don't smoke here, etc. In these examples, there are three base forms of the verbs. Serve as the imperatives for making a request. As in the examples, please take a seat, please wait here, please don't smoke here, etc. Now, there is one very important point I need to add here. Remember, we can also use the imperatives for explaining steps in a procedure as an instruction or order to do something. For example, as in the process of making a cup of coffee. Please listen to me saying them. First of all, boil the water with an electric kettle. Then fill in the coffee pot with the boiling water. After that, put some spoon of coffee flowers into the coffee pot. Next, leave it for a few minutes, depending on the coffee. Later, pour the coffee into the cup. Finally, put some milk into the cup and then enjoy the coffee. In this example of the process in making a cup of coffee, you see that the words shaded in yellow like boil, fill, put, leave, pour, and then there's another put here right after finally, and then enjoy, are the base form of the verbs, and they are used as the imperatives for explaining steps in a procedure, which is basically as an instruction or order to do something in this context in the process of making a cup of coffee. And notice there is no subject or to before each of these base form of the verbs. There is also one very important point I'd like to add here with the use of the imperative clauses or sentences. The imperative clauses or sentences sometimes only contain of the base form of the verb itself, and when in written form, it usually ends with a full stop. For example, when in taking pictures of someone or a group of people, we would hear the photographer says, "Smile," or "Smile," or when in a racing competition, you may hear the coach says, "1, 2, 3, go," etc. But can also occasionally end with an exclamation to show emotion. For example, sit down, stand up, etc. Or sometimes the imperative clauses or sentences can only contain of the negative imperative form, or basically with do not or don't followed by the base form of the verb, and when in the written form, it can end with a full stop or an exclamation. For example, you may hear when someone doesn't want others to touch his or her stuffs, he or she would say, "Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch." Other examples, don't drink, don't drink, don't go, etc. We can also use let before the base form of the verb if we are including ourselves in the imperatives. Please refer to this formula on how we form a positive imperative form with let. In the formula, we have let followed by the base form of the verb as shown in these examples. I would say, let's stop now. Let's go for lunch. Let's go home. Let's have something to eat. Let's find him. Let's take the bus, etc. And when with a negative imperative form with let, the formula is with let followed by not and then followed by the base form of the verb as shown in the following examples. Example sentences. Let's not argue. Let's not talk a lot. Let's not tell her about it. Let's not wait until he comes. Let's not do it, etc. Alright, I hope that everything about the lesson on the imperative form of the verbs is clear. And I'd like you to know that despite of the fact that there are circumstances concerning the use of the imperatives, however, those we have just been through are basically the common situations with the use of the imperative form of the verbs in English that you do have to know in English. As usual, I'd like to take you through the following 5 exercises to put your knowledge on the imperatives. In these exercises, you are basically asked to put the words in brackets into the gaps with the positive or the negative imperative forms. If you are ready, let's get started. Let's look at exercise number 1. Upstairs, in bracket, to go. Now let's see, is it go upstairs or to go upstairs? What do we have here? It is go upstairs, not to go upstairs. Good, well done. Now, moving on, let's look at exercise number 2. In this lake, in bracket, not to swim. Now, is it not to swim in this lake or don't swim in this lake? Alright, we have got it. It is don't swim in this lake, not to swim in this lake. Well done. Now let's come to exercise number 3. Your homework, in bracket, to do. Is it to do your homework or do your homework? Let's see. Yes, we've got it. It is do your homework, not to do your homework. Good. Now moving on, it's exercise number 4. Football in the yard, in bracket, not to play. Now, is it not to play football in the yard or don't play football in the yard? Let's see, what do we have here? Yes, we've got it. Don't play football in the yard, not to play football in the yard. Well done. Now it's the last exercise, which is exercise number 5. Your teeth, in bracket, to brush. Now, is it to brush your teeth or brush your teeth? Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, we've got it. It is brush your teeth, not to brush your teeth. Alright, you have been fantastic learners. See you in the next lesson. Goodbye.